hey there everybody, this is David from My Metal Today, and I'm here with Alicia Cordisco and John Yelland from the band Judicator, a band that actually I've been a fan of for quite some time. And there was some very interesting recent news when I was at Midvale Power Fest that announced that Alicia was rejoining the band. And so we will be getting into that today, but we're also going to be talking about just the band's history in general, kind of their journey, the whole reason behind the kind of what happened when Alicia left and coming back, and then perhaps most importantly for this interview, their upcoming Grillfest appearance, which is coming up here in September. So with that, I'm going to hand it over first to Alicia and then to John to give a quick intro for themselves.
All right. Thank you so much, David. Appreciate you having us on. Like you said, my name's Alicia Cordisco, along with John, founder of the band Judicator. I was in the band from 2012 until 2020. And outside of that, I'm also in a political protest band called Transgressive, playing death and thrash metal mostly. And then I have a whole host of random side projects and adventures I get into. But those are my two main babies, and I'm super happy to be back in Judicator. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you. How about you, John?
Yeah, I am, of course, John. If you're here, you know who I am. I am very happy about Alicia coming back on board. I think it's going to be cathartic, exciting. Everything we've done so far has been really encouraging. It's like riding a bike. You think, oh, maybe it's not going to work and I'm going to crash. It's been fine so far. I'm really happy with where we are headed and what we've done so far since she's come back.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, thank you both for introducing yourselves. And, as I mentioned, and obviously like the big impetus for this interview is eventually talking about the reunion, but I like to figure out the journey along the way. Like I love stories, I love narratives, and so let's rewind time back to 2012 when the two of you co-founded Judicator. Can you walk us through kind of how did Judicator get started? Like what was that like? How did the two of you meet? How did you decide to start this band? How did you decide on the style? Like we'll start there.
Yeah, I think it's something that we kind of joke about now. Like me and Chad were having a good laugh about it because it's such a it feels like an obligatory thing that people mention when they talk about us. And so the headline is always like, Judicator was founded in 2012 by the two of us after we met at a Blind Guardian concert, which is appropriate considering the genre of music that we play. So it's kind of like this little entry tagline that's done pretty well for us, honestly. The one thing that doesn't get said, though, is that we started the band on accident, basically. When we first started making material, King of Rome, which I love that album, I love those songs a lot, especially the title track. King of Rome was not meant to be like a band. It was meant to be like, John was doing Dysphoria, I was in college, I wasn't really doing a lot with music at the time, and I wrote that album in like 3 weeks, and it's got rough even for the time production, and was just like, hey, let's you do music, I do music, we had a great time becoming friends at Blind Guardian, let's just make some fucking power metal and throw it up on Bandcamp and see what happens. And then that shit took off. And we were like driving the bus like we stole it, essentially, and flew by the seat of our pants for 8 years. Basically, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger with every little step we took. So I always like to bring up the well-documented origin story. I met John at Blind Guardian. He was hanging out alone by the venue. I was there to go backstage with some friends, and was like, dude, don't sit out here in the Arizona heat by yourself. Come on, you're my friend. We know each other. We're gonna go watch soundcheck. But yeah, then we started a band on complete accident.
Yeah, that's all true. And I think in terms of maybe aspects of the origin story that have not been explored as much, I think what you said, Alicia, that like we were flying by the seat of our pants. Now with a little bit more wisdom and experience, I look back on that time period and I felt like, for me, like we had such little idea of what we were doing. It felt like we were just figuring it out as we went. And speaking of King of Rome, I knew very little about recording. I knew hit record, stand roughly this far from the mic, and it was just a lot of fun, but it was a lot of weird energy and pressure. And, I'm not saying it was bad. It's just, it was chaotic sometimes. And I'm amazed, I guess, thinking back, how well everything ended up. I mean, it didn't end up well, and I guess we might get there, but, I don't want to say, it shouldn't have worked, but it did. But it kind of shouldn't have worked, but it did.
Yeah, so, I feel like we had a lightning in the bottle moment based like purely off our creative synergy.
Yeah. I think there was absolutely something magical there. It's just when I think like where we are at now compared to where we were then in terms of energy and philosophy and clarity, I'm very grateful that we are where we are now and that we're not still there.
Yeah, absolutely. I would not be here if that were not the case. I'm sure we'll get into that.
So maybe a follow-up question there, and thank you both for sharing. Maybe for each of you, how long have each of you been doing your respective thing musically? So Alicia, how long have you been playing guitar? And John, you said you hadn't really done recording. How long have you been singing?
Well, I've been singing and performing music and writing music and all of that kind of thing since I was a kid. But I did not actually get into recording until roughly the time period that I started Judicator with Alicia. So, I think 2010 is when I first started getting my feet just a little bit wet.
Yeah, for me, I've been doing this so long now. It's my entire life, honestly. I started playing guitar when I was 12. I'm about to turn 37 for context. And I joined and started bands almost immediately. Like, as soon as I could start playing songs, I was in local thrash bands, mostly playing like thrash and crust punk kind of stuff here in the scene in Tucson. And man, that was my whole high school. Just every day was band practice, recording shitty demos and throwing them up on MySpace, playing every fucking venue we could, playing on people's floors, playing in the desert with generators hooked up to the amps, running from the cops when the cops got mad about us playing with generators hooked up to our amps in the desert. Maybe the underage drinking too, that might have had something to do with it, but basically cut my teeth just gigging like hell and really just getting out on there to like break shit and play fast music. And I kind of took a pause when I went to college. I didn't go to college right out of high school, but I eventually decided to, and that's when I met John, and then kind of got into getting to explore the melodic metal side of myself. And I've just been I just released my 17th album, and I've just been doing it ever since. It's probably cliche to say like music is my life, but for me, just making songs and albums has always been like the thing I wanted to do, and I've just pursued it with like a monastic obsession.
No, that's cool. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So we'll call it part one of Judicator, which is up until 2020. There were, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, 5 full lengths put out. So for each of you, is there one of those full lengths that maybe stands out a little bit more than the others? And then as a follow-up question, is there maybe a specific song that really resonates with each of you from that early era?
Yeah. John, I'll let you take that one first.
Right on. I think our classic era is probably Let There Be Nothing and The Last Emperor. I think that's where we really started to hit our stride. The album of ours from the classic era that I listen to most is Let There Be Nothing. I think the production is an interesting and kind of refreshing direction, and I have a lot of good memories recording that. I'm so accustomed to recording in my basement alone, hitting record, running over to the mic, singing, running over, hitting stop, and doing that. And it's fine, but like that's work. And for Let There Be Nothing, I didn't want to do that. I recorded the vocals with my good friend Austin Bentley, who is guitarist for Fervents. And so the memories of recording Let There Be Nothing are something I look back on with a lot of fondness, because a lot of jokes and hanging out and and I also incorporated Austin in a lot of backing vocals. So I think I won't say this is my favorite song on the album, but it's one that I really, really, really like, is The Way of a Pilgrim, the sort of soft part in the middle where it's like, ah. We just had fun and we built that section vocally. It was just a fun process of exploration. I really enjoy that time period.
I remember you two talking about that section specifically because it's already such an Opeth-influenced song. Michael Goodrich, who did some drum editing on the album and produced our second album, jokingly sent all the files back to me and called the song "I Too Have Heard the Funeral Portrait." And then I remember you and then you two, when you were doing that part, you were like, okay, so hopefully you like Opeth. And I'm like, of course I like Opeth. You're like, this is going to be like a Ghost of Perdition kind of like vocal interlude. And I remember hearing it and I was like, this is like the coolest shit we've ever written. So yeah, that's definitely a standout track for me. Let There Be Nothing is also the album for me. I think it's really ambitious, and we did a lot of things that I probably would not do a second time, but I think that it was good that we did them and that it paid off, and there's a reason it's our most popular album. It's by far the most streamed, most sold album. The Last Emperor did very good as well. Thank you, Hansi Kirsch. But the Let There Be Nothing has continued to be an album that, like, God, over the past 6 years, I get messages weekly about that album still, and people that see it as like a modern classic of niche power metal, and that's something I never thought I would do. And I'm glad it was that album that had that payoff, because I think we really swung for the bleachers in a lot of ways, and sometimes when you swing for the bleachers, it doesn't always land. So for it to land is really, really cool. And I would call out The Way of the Pilgrim as one of my favorite songs off that. Also, Strange to the World is maybe more of a sleeper hit from the album, but that is just a really adventurous, cool song. I think it's like, you know, usually when you listen to us, you're like, oh yeah, the Halloween, the Blind Guardian influences. That one, it's like Fate's Warning meets Atlantean Codex kind of stuff. Has this like super arcane, mystical feeling to it, of like old metal, as Fenriz would put it. And I just love that vibe, and I think it's cool that we got to explore that vibe, and it worked really well with our music. And then the choral aspect of John's vocals, like if you're gonna do an album with Orthodox themes and history, God, what a way to execute it on his part. So just phenomenal work by everyone involved, and really proud of that one.
No, cool. Let There Be Nothing is actually my favorite Judicator album, period.
Hell yeah.
It's one that when I'm in a Judicator mood, it's the one I always turn on. And it does, I do end up playing it quite a bit. And I think my favorite song, I've always loved Gloria. I don't know, something about the various melodic progressions there, the big anthemic kind of almost epic chorus, like just the whole song, just something about it, just it all comes together in a really fun way. And I practically freaked out when Judicator played that at Mile High Power Fest a couple of years ago. It was like, wow, this is like my favorite song. And so definitely one that I like. But it's interesting that I think all three of us really like that specific album for obvious reasons. I think the production quality on it is fabulous. The songwriting is really good, and it's one of those it's an album that should be bigger than it is, in my opinion. When you think about a lot of the power metal albums that have come out in the last 10 to 15 years, I would certainly put it pretty high up there. Like, where would I put it? I don't actually know. I haven't actually thought about it, but it's one that I would definitely rank pretty highly. And yet I don't know that it has the reach that some of the quote-unquote bigger names have, because you guys have been more of an underground band in a lot of respects. And then, of course, you're also an American power metal band kind of tucked away in a smaller state, and so you're not as discoverable in a lot of respects. But, such a great album.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that kindness. And I will say, Gloria is like one of the biggest things about coming back is I was just like, okay, that's like if we play one song live, that's the song we're playing. So fuck yeah, I get to play that song live. Finally, I'm so stoked. And we were just jamming on it, doing rehearsals recently. I was just like having the time of my life playing that one.
Oh, that's awesome. Very cool.
I feel like going back to what I was saying about my experience recording The Way of a Pilgrim, and Alicia saying she's 37, I'm 36, and I feel like I'm 26. I'm just realizing, I have been realizing that, time really is finite, and Judicator, we only perform 1, 2, maybe 3 times per year, so we don't get out super often. We need to make it count. We are dying day by day, and so I think it's really great that philosophically we are very aligned. Everybody in the band is very aligned about, it's not just that we want to produce cool stuff and do cool stuff, but it's very important that we enjoy doing it and that we enjoy the process. I want to look back on good memories, and that's one of the bittersweet things about the classic Judicator era, is we produced really awesome, cool stuff. But there are also, some of the memories are hit or miss, So I'm very focused on this Judicator, this new era, being something that everybody enjoys doing. And it's okay if we take it slower. Let's be sober-minded and make sure that everybody's enjoying the process, Yeah.
I think the artistic and personal integrity we're really locked in on with this band is just such a... The band is a support system for our lives. We are not a support system for the band. And I think that's an important distinction.
That's a great way of putting it. I feel like the old era was kind of like that. It was like we were on the leash of the band instead of the other way around.
Interesting. No, that's an interesting perspective. Well, I'm going to ask one more question on the classic that I didn't prep you for, but it just kind of came up from the conversation, and then we'll move on to kind of the next era. You mentioned Hansi. Obviously there's the whole Blind Guardian kind of part of the origin story. Hansi did guest vocals on an album. There's people have even compared the earlier stuff to say, hey, it's kind of like the American version of Blind Guardian, which I don't think is completely true, but you can definitely hear the influence.
Thank
for
you
sure.
for saying that.
The influence is obvious, but you're not a Blind Guardian carbon copy by any stretch of the imagination. But what I am curious is kind of how did the friendship with Hansi come about, and how did you get him to come sing on one of your albums?
That's all you, Johnny Cakes.
Well, sometimes in life you take a shot and it just ends up working out. I took a shot, and I had zero expectation that it would work. I just became friends with somebody on the Blind Guardian broader team, and it wasn't Machiavellian, like it just happened, I guess. And I put forward the idea of, if I send a Google Drive folder with a song and some lyrics and a message, could you forward it along and see if he likes it? And he said, I can guarantee that he will listen to it, but I cannot guarantee that he will respond. And if he doesn't, don't be offended. He's a busy guy. I said, okay, that's fine. So I sent him the folder, and maybe a week or two goes by, and he says Hansi likes it and he wants to sing for it. And this was Dysphoria, by the way. And I just about pooped in my pants. So yeah, I was let into another world, which was very strange to the world. Yeah, so I got Hansi's email. Hansi emailed me, and we went back and forth trying to get him to do guest vocals for this Dysphoria song called The Dying Firmament. And it was very difficult because it just, one thing after another happened. Hansi was sick, and then he was on tour, so I'll have to get back to it. And then, long story short, it ended up happening, thank goodness. And I thought, that's that. That was a great chapter in my life. I got Hansi on a song. Awesome. I hung out with him and Blind Guardian in Saarbrücken in 2014, I think it was. But I just thought, Daddy. So I just thought, hey, I have an opportunity, and I'm not going to be creepy or weird about it. So I just kind of made Hansi into a little bit of a pen pal. And so, yeah, we exchange emails every long once in a while, and it's all cordial and good and cool. And so I thought, maybe take another shot, because Dysphoria ended up dying, and it was a regret of mine that I wasted Hansi on a band that ended up dying, and Judicator ended up becoming the more powerful band in the long run anyway. So I thought, man, if only I had put Hansi on a Judicator song. Well, I'm going to take my shot again. And Hansi ended up being a lot more receptive and a lot more fast in completing Spiritual Treason. And yeah, just since then, we've stayed pen pals. Every time they come through Denver or Salt Lake, we hang out. Yeah, it's just been a nice pen pal relationship. And I keep trying to get him to sign the adoption papers, but he politely declines every time.
No, that's awesome. And I'm definitely with you on sometimes you just got to take the shot. The worst thing that can happen is someone will just say no. And in your case, he didn't say no, and it actually worked out really well. So, cool story.
Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't like, they say, the worst thing that can happen is they say no. I'm glad it wasn't like when I was before I was married and trying to date, and the women would say, ew.
If Hansi said ew in response to one of my songs, I would just straight up quit. I'd just be like, you know what? I gave it my best shot. I'm done. God has forsaken me. But he did not say that. He was so complimentary and so gracious and such a good mentor in the times I got to spend with John and him. And it really does. He really is I've got more don't meet your heroes examples than I'd love to share. But he is like the example of meet your heroes, because sometimes they will be the person you hope they are, and be like an amazing mentor and treat you with respect and like a peer even. And that's just a cool feeling when you realize that like some things in life are legit, and some things like are really what you hope they are. And that's just, I don't know, that's a little bit of happiness I cling to when things are tough.
Yeah, Hansi is definitely somebody who matches the legend that has been built up around him. He's somebody who, in my experience, definitely walks the walk also.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Very cool. No, that's a really fun story. Thank you both for sharing. So now we're in the part of the Judicator journey where maybe things get a little bit darker. We're 2020, you have a new album that comes out in 2022, and in that gap, Alicia leaves the band. And there's a big stark change in the sound. Even the next album is quite a bit darker. We'll get to that in a second, though. Let's talk about what happened. So, I'll leave it there, and I'll hand the baton back over.
Maybe I start this one, and then you finish it, Alicia?
Sounds good.
Because I know that Alicia is very awesomely, we are sensitive to each other's plights and experiences. And I've wrestled with how deep or detailed to go, because I kind of expected this to come up. So I'm kind of just going to throw caution to the wind and just go into it. I don't want to go into too many specifics, but I figure for the people who are interested, why not, I guess. I don't have anything to hide, I suppose. So, 2015, 2016, I started to become very politically activated, I guess you could say. And I had never been this way before. I had never really been a political person. And I became very brash and argumentative and confrontational and flippant, and I became a crusader of sorts. I ended up over the years alienating myself from a lot of people, or turning a lot of people off, and I made a good number of enemies. I became a more and more toxic person, and more a difficult person to be around. And especially, I think, for Alicia, who was so close to me, and not just personally, because a band is also kind of a business relationship. So like we were really intertwined in that regard as well. So, her patience could be described as saintly, you might say. She had a lot of patience, and, at a certain point there was just a straw that broke the camel's back. And when Alicia told me that she was going to quit, that, I don't like to say it, I don't want to say it, but I think that Alicia quitting the band was what really snapped me into focus. It didn't snap me into focus, but it was the thing that was like, whoa, like this is not just some acquaintance or friendly acquaintance or even friend on Facebook or something who now hates me or doesn't like me or has a problem with me. This is somebody who is like one of my closest people. And this is a person who I have been working together with to build something that means the world to us both. And my behavior and actions have become such an issue that she can no longer stomach being in the band with me. So that was something which, in the fallout from when she quit up until when I think I started becoming more like sober and whatnot, so to speak, that was like the turning point for me too. So yeah, maybe we work up to that point and go forward. But yeah, so you said between Let There Be Nothing and the Majesty of Decay. I forget exactly when Alicia quit. I think it was before Let There Be Nothing. So another big kudos to Alicia is that despite her justified grievances with me, she did not want to hurt the band and the band's relationship to Prosthetic Records, our, at that time, new label that we had just got on. So Alicia didn't want her leaving the band to be shooting ourselves in the foot with a bazooka. So if she quit the band before Let There Be Nothing came out, but decided to not announce that until the album had like run its cycle, I guess. So I forget exactly when she departed, but it was after Let There Be Nothing was released. And yeah, so that's detailed, but not so detailed.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing to piggyback off of, because that was always the question. Like, even at our highest points of conflict, it's like, it's so freaking weird being in a band that isn't famous per se, but is like micro niche famous, and that people we don't know do care about and do talk about. So and God, I've talked to my therapist about this so many times over the years. Being in like an underground metal band is like, it's like being a big fish in the tiniest of puddles. And you know, if it was just like our local band, like, who gives a shit? It's our personal grievances. We don't have to tell anybody anything. But when you've got people who have supported you, and you've got like eyes on you, and people are going to talk about you in the dark corners of the internet and speculate about your personal life, the question was always like, well, how much of this do we have to share, and how much of this do we have to get into, and like, you know, where is the line? Where is the balance? And so coming back to the band, it's like, okay, again, where is the line? Where's the balance? Because when I left, you know, I gave a very generic statement. And there were times I was privately more open, and I probably regret some of those times. And John may say I was saintly patient, but everyone knows I certainly have a temper sometimes. I won't deny that.
I know there was a lot of rage. Rage in my heart. You know, go listen to Transgressive if you want to hear the rage. But yeah, it's you know, there were things I had to apologize for and things that I regretted about how we handled it. But the question was always like, okay, what is like public knowledge? What is important for people to know? And what do we owe other people? What do we owe each other? And those are hard questions to answer, and I don't think there is a perfect answer. And I really, over the last 6 years, have tried to get away from black and white thinking and seeing people as you know, like ideologies or cliches or whatever. I think we're all much messier and much more complicated than that. I think what really matters is for people to just be trying their best and trying to get a little better and having good intentions. And that's really what brought us back together. You know, we were at an impasse in our personal and professional relationship, and then also in like our political, ideological relationship, if you can call it a relationship, I guess. And yeah, so that drove us apart. And it's kind of funny because we made a decision to not like air too much dirty laundry, and I think that actually helped bring us back together, because the reason John and I started talking again 4 years later
is because people were like making up rumors about what happened.
Oh, wow.
And like putting words in our mouths or misinterpreting things. And I get it. When you don't know the full story, and when we haven't been like fully transparent, or like people read things or hear things through the rumor mill, like obviously speculation is going to flourish. And again, this is so weird that this even happens, and like I still don't know how to process that fully. But it's like, you know, people were like, oh, John and Alicia were in a relationship together and broke up, is one thing I read. And like, no, that's not what happened. Or other things were like, oh, Alicia transitioned and John kicked her out of the band. It's like an Apsu situation. And that definitely did not happen. Like, categorically, like, I transitioned after I left the band. I had started the conversation of leaving in 2019, and I transitioned in 2020 after I left the band. And like, I didn't even talk to the band about it. And one of the things that was like green flag olive branch to me was that they were just, you know, John and Jordan was still in the band at the time, were both very supportive from a distance. And like, I didn't ask them to do anything, and they did everything right, is how I would put it. So that was very much like green flag, you know, maybe something has changed there. And you know, the thing that drove me crazy is like when I had to like get involved in Reddit discussions and be like, please stop weaponizing my experience and saying things that aren't true. Like, criticize people for the right reasons, criticize them for, you know, what they actually did, but we don't need to make up stories, and I can clarify. And I think we need to be like reasonable and say things that are true, and not like take my experiences and use them to like win internet points. And again, I realize that like I own the responsibility of being transparent and clear, so some of that is on me. But from that need to like clear things up and be transparent, that's what got John and I talking again. You know, very much a like, hey, you know, like I know shit happened between us, and like I know we don't see eye to eye on everything, and like but like I don't think you deserve like this accusation, or like this definitely did not happen, or like, hey, I actually think like you handled this well, thank you for that. So that really led us to having some good conversations and like connecting slowly over a distance, and just kind of working on like pushing the rest of that out and just focusing on like, okay, what do we owe each other? What can we mend with each other? We had some really long, really intense email conversations that, looking back on, you know, 2 years later, I deeply treasure, because at the end of the day, I think we're just two people who were childhood friends and got wrapped up in something bigger than ourselves in a strange to the world kind of way. And it's really nice to be able to experience reconnection and reconciliation with people that are important to you. And, you know, John was one of my best friends and is again. And being able to make that journey together, I don't know, it just gives me a kind of hope that people can find what brings us together against the things that ail us and challenge us in the world, rather than divide us against them, if that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense, and thank you for your transparency and vulnerability in sharing that. You know, one thing that, you know, we're in an interesting world, and I always avoid being political in any of these myself. You know, it can only be downhill a lot of the time. But,
yeah, fair.
But one of the things that, you know, I've noticed, you know, it's gotten worse in a lot of respects, is, you know, it's not okay for people to disagree, and it's really sad that has become the case, because what the different viewpoints that we have, the way we approach things, the perspectives we have, that's what makes each of us unique. It's what makes each of us interesting. And as long as people are open to other perspectives, as long as people aren't hateful and aren't kind of, you know, putting people down and going after people, etc., like, we can have some really fun conversations, and you can learn a lot from other people's perspectives, even when you don't agree with them. And, you know, it's sad to me that so much of the world today doesn't seem to operate that way anymore. Yeah. And it does sound like even some of that is what kind of hurt your relationship early on. And it's like really, it's really cool to hear that the two of you have been able to find common ground, even in differences of opinion or different perspectives. And I think that's super important.
I think the thing that brings us together is like we agree on the big things. You know what I mean? We don't like when people are smashed and grinded by the machine at the end of the day. Like, that's what we don't like to see, and we want to do good for each other, for our families, for our friends. You know, if we don't agree on what should happen to billionaires or something very distant from your personal life ideologically, I think that's fine, and those are the people you should build coalition with at the end of the day.
Yeah, I kind of look at Alicia and I's relationship as a microcosm of what is happening in the country socio-culturally, politically, and where I would like it to go, which is, yeah, I mean, you're not going to agree with everybody, and you may even have strong disagreements with people, but you can, if you can unite around, like Alicia said, the stuff that actually matters and the stuff that makes a tangible impact. And I don't know, I feel like you generally share more in common than you don't. And I think it's easy to get caught up in a lot of the stuff that's tempting. It's tempting to get in a shit war over something or other, but I don't know, it doesn't matter, and it's not worth it. It's just focus on the stuff you have in common. I don't know.
There's like a whole other philosophical conversation we could get into there, but like at the end of the day, like, John never did any, like, some unforgivable sin or anything like that. You know, it wasn't anything that couldn't be mended. And I look at other bands where, like, people have done horrible things and have gotten called out for doing horrible things, and I'm like, those are very different situations. Like, I think that we can mend bridges over, like, personal disagreements that are highly related to, like, growing up together in a chaotic world. You know, so ultimately at the end of the day, like, I know John has my back, I've got his, and I look at the Good Samaritan rule. Would someone give the clothes off their back to someone who needed it? I think that counts a lot more than, like, if you agree with, like, every single one of my anarchist principles, if that makes sense.
I think that's it. I think I was very clumsily trying to put my finger on that, which is I've really tried to reassess my relationship with social media and information and that kind of thing, the way that I react to stuff. And one of the very, very valuable, I don't even want to call it like an insight or something I've learned. It's just like a new way of operating or a new way of seeing, which is like radical humanization. I've talked with Alicia about this before. I feel like we live in a world that is almost radically dehumanizing. And, you know, Alicia and I come from different walks of life, and somebody that I might just meet on the street comes from a totally different walk of life. But when you look at somebody as an end in and of itself rather than a means to an end, when you look at somebody as, like, this is somebody who was a child at one point, and they have all this rough exterior now, but that beautiful, pure child is still in there, you know. That's how I try to approach people who are different than me, whether it's physically or experience or whatever. I think it's very important to view people that way, and it's hard sometimes because it is easy to get swept up in some of these differences that actually don't really matter, you know.
Yeah. So we definitely rambled a bit there. I'm not sure if we'll have to edit anything down, but you know, we're just figuring this out with each other as we go about it. And again, the line of like, what do we talk about, what do we not? It's not like we're hiding any secret, but it's just like, you know, what is, I don't know, too much, what is private, what is just ours, what is what's good for the public, as it were, to know. The important thing is, like, we've reconnected on something that means a lot to us, and that's each other, and that's the music that we make, and we're surrounded by good people and good community, and my hope is just that, like, we put something good into the world, and maybe that makes someone's day a little bit better. I think we can hang our hat proud on that at the end of everything.
No, like I said, I super appreciate the vulnerability and the transparency, and it's definitely clear the two of you have worked through a lot. I'm actually gonna skip ahead. I'm gonna skip a couple questions that I'll probably come back to, but I figured we'll keep the momentum going on this topic. Let's go ahead and fast forward to the announcement that happened literally 3 weeks ago at Mad with Power. I was actually at Mad with Power, and we were doing the next year reel right before Twilight Force finished up the fest, and suddenly I'm like, that's Alicia. Is Judicator gonna play? And wait a minute, is Alicia coming back? Of course I had no insider information, but that was literally the first thoughts that hit my mind. And of course, within moments, Alicia confirmed that on the pre-recorded video and the reel. Yeah. So what I'm curious about is what made you all decide to make this announcement during the Mad with Power next year announcement? I thought that was kind of an interesting choice. So, and then B, ultimately, what led you've talked through a lot of the reconciliation you've gone through, but what actually led to you, Alicia, agreeing to come back to the band, and John being willing to have Alicia come back to the band?
Yeah, I think I can start this one. So the Mad with Power announcement was, to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, that was all Ty Christian's idea. He obviously was talking to us because John had contacted him and been like, hey, we're getting the original lineup back together, like there's going to be a lot of hype, like we're Mad with Power 3 alumni, like it's time, bring us back for the 10th anniversary, like glorious return and whatnot. And Ty saw that as a good opportunity to we're like right at the clinch point of making the announcement video. I think he's like a week away from making that, so he sent us over the offer. It was very generous, very good offer. We accepted immediately, and he pitched the idea of having us announce it at the fest. I was kind of nerve-wracked about it. I hit my girl Kristen from Twilight Force, and I was like, so I might be technically opening for you here in a way, and asked her for some advice, and we just had green lights all around, and it felt right. We were originally going to hold off on the announcement until closer to Grillfest, or potentially at Grillfest, but the perfect opportunity presented itself. Also, I have a very known habit of being completely unable to keep secrets, so it was probably in the band's best interest to I'm like Tom Holland on the MCU interviews, just spoiling everything if you know where to look. I can't keep my big damn mouth shut, but it's just because I'm excited, so I think it worked out well for the band, because if I had to keep that secret until September, I don't think I could do it, to be completely honest. But yeah, so that's what led to the Mad with Power announcement. It is super exciting to be coming back to a fest that we were at the ground level for, back before it blew up. And as far as the decision to come back to the band, so it actually wasn't me agreeing to come back. It was my idea. John has told me he would have probably never asked the question, even if he telegraphed that it's okay for you to ask it. We had started, a year or so after reconnecting, talking about working together again. Not in a band capacity. I respect that Judicator is in a new place. It is a completely different band now. It's not going to be like it was before. It is Phase 3. It is a new thing, a new relationship, and the the contents of how the band runs and the people involved in it are what gave me the confidence to ask to come back, because Concord is an incredible freaking album. I love that. No bias involved. I think it's the best power metal album of 2025. And I love playing the songs. I mean, I'm stoked to play those songs live. They're just fun songs to jam.
It is a great album. I agree. I really enjoyed reviewing that one last year.
Heck yeah. So, like, that for one was like, okay, I can integrate to this. Like, I'll be handling, I would say, the majority of the musical songwriting, but being able to collaborate with the other songwriters in the band and synergize, as it were, is really going to push the band in a cool new direction. So knowing that was like, okay, creatively, like, there's something here that excites me, because I don't want to just, like, come back and do the same thing, if that makes sense. Judicator does not make the same album twice. That has always been the rule from day number one. And pushing it to a new area, I think, will be great. And then, just how the band runs. Everyone is so on top of it, so professional, so willing to help out, carry not just their own weight, but each other's weight. And it really speaks well of the great environment that John and also Chad have fostered with the whole group. And Chad especially has really been someone who's given me a lot of confidence coming back to the band. He's just creative and helpful and fundamentally, like, a good musician and friend in such critical ways that have made, basically, I would have said yes regardless, but it made me, like, knock on John's door in the middle of the day from just the little collaborations we had done leading up to it, and just be like, I gotta just ask, like, can I come back to the band? Like, things are going good in our little collaborations that we're doing. Like, he was on a solo album song with me. I was doing some guest work for them. We had already discussed me playing a couple songs live with them at Grillfest. And I was just like, fuck it, man. Like, let's go big or go home. Like, I'm ready. Put me back in the game, coach.
Oh, very cool.
Hell yeah. Like she said, I would probably never have asked her to rejoin the band, and that's not from any negative thing. It's just, the way things ended, I would not have wanted to impose or make it awkward. And, like she said too, we had already, I had done a guest spot on one of her solo albums, a song, and she already was in talks to do some stuff with us. So I was kind of like, opening the door and peeking through and being like, So yeah, when she brought it up eventually, it's not like it was a surprise at all to me. It had been kind of telegraphed.
Yeah, I definitely sent you some, like, random time of the day, like, Instagram messages of, like, just being like, hey, John, so big thing I want to talk to you about. No need to respond immediately, but if you could respond immediately, that would be fantastic. And sadly, the thing that triggered it, I mean, kind of bittersweet, was John Dolan, Big Boss, leaving the band. Because that presented, like, if there's going to be a time for a lineup change, it's right now. And I love Big Boss. He's a great dude, great musician. Sad that we have been ships passing in the night in this band. He joined, and then I exited. I enter, and he exits. So we're just kind of high-fiving each other on our way in and out the door. So sad I haven't had the opportunity to work with him. Definitely understand, like, why he had to leave and everything, and hope everything is good with him. I talk to him not all the time, but decently enough, and wish good things for him, and proud of his contributions to the band. Just sad we never got to play on a record together.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, cool. Well, now I'm going to go back to a couple of questions I wanted to ask before, but I figured I didn't want to lose the momentum there, since we had the juices flowing there. This is probably a little bit more for John at this point. So obviously very stark shift on the Majesty of Decay. It's if you look at the Judicator discography, it's definitely the one that's different in so many respects. And I know you mentioned before, I think Alicia mentioned before, like Judicator never makes the same album twice, but you could say that there's at least there's a familiarity to a lot of them, and Majesty definitely was very different than the rest. I personally love it. I think it's a very it's darker, it's a little bit proggier. I think
a little bit.
Yeah, normally a lot proggier. It seems like it's very kind of personal and heartfelt. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about the direction change and the subject matter specifically.
Well, so I can touch on the subject matter, but to give a little bit of an explanation for why it's such a drastic wild card. Alicia quits the band. We are still in a relationship with Prosthetic Records, and so we owe them an album if we are going to deliver on the option they had on the contract. And so we need an album. I do not want to ask Alicia to, use any of the music that she had originally written and planned on being the next Judicator album. That would have been imposing, probably would have been a no anyways. It's like, hey, it's done. You got to figure it out. If you are going to do another album, you need to write one, or maybe basically write a handful of songs and use stuff that I was wanting to use as a solo album eventually anyways. So, I've seen where do I go? Yeah, so I had a lot of material already written. I had about 6 songs or so, and the rest I did write. Majesty of Decay, it is kind of a solo album, just because I wrote all of the music, I wrote all of the lyrics. It wasn't intended to be that way, but that is how it happened. And after Alicia left, there were conversations about, do we just quit the band? Do we just conclude it? Alicia had already told me that we should continue, and that we should keep going. So that felt good, but it was a little bit of a shitstorm too at the same time. So there were doubts. Should we even continue? And so it is weird that we go from the original arrangement, very collaborative between Alicia and I, to basically a John Yelland solo record. And I don't view it that way. I'm putting this intentionally in a very unflattering light. But all that being said, I adore the Majesty of Decay. I love it. I think it's a phenomenal album. It is extremely different from anything that came before it, and I totally understand the negative reaction to it. And it's odd because it was so well received, broadly speaking. I think it's a very well received album. Let's see. Yeah, so it was not my choice to make The High Priestess the first song we released. I remember Jordan Elsess, he was like, man, if we're gonna do something so different like this, let's just wear it on our sleeves and pick the craziest song there is. So okay, I wanted Ursa Major to be the intro to the new direction. But I said, Jordan has been such a support system for me, and when I wanted to quit, when I wanted to hang up my hat, Jordan was like, no, keep going, we can do this, like, don't give up. So I was like, all right, I'm going to trust you, let's do The High Priestess. And we really leaned into everything. It's a very loony, very weird, but very sincere song, and I think it's a very loony, weird, and sincere album. You ask about the subject matter. And that's what you really wanted to know. Yeah, it's it's basically, I'll continue putting things in as unflattering a light as possible. It's basically a pseudo sequel to At the Expense of Humanity. It's basically just a thought experiment about what my own death could look like. It's a reflection on the process of dying. I worked as a hospice chaplain for a few years, and that taught me a lot of heavy things. And so basically, the album is interesting because it is structured like a mirror. The first half of the album, oh no, you're dying of cancer and everything's horrible. And in the middle, it sort of breaks the fourth wall and makes a few comments about the responsibility of the writer and how the writer has an impact on the listener. And I included that, I guess, because some people have said that they don't like listening to At the Expense of Humanity because it is too depressing, and I get it. And so, you know, on my end, I want to explore these horrible things that won't stop bugging me. But on the other end, I get it. Like, you know, there is a place for escapism, and I don't want to make you feel bad, you know. So, all that being said, the transition between Ursa Minor and Ursa Major, it's like maybe we don't have to tell a bad story. Maybe death doesn't have to be bad. Maybe we can tell a good story about death. And so that's where everything that had been explored in the first tracks are now mirrored from a different perspective. So track 1 is the mirror opposite to track 10. Track 2 is the mirror opposite to track 9. Every song thematically mirrors its correlate or whatever. The other interesting thing is I indulged my wife's curiosity at one point. I don't know anything about tarot, but she wanted to do I guess it's a 4-card spread. And I guess you pick a question or something that you want to know more about. And I said, okay, I've got it in my head. I want to know about my death. And the cards that were drawn were like Daughter of Swords, High Priestess, Metamorphosis, and Daughter of Swords. And so I thought that was interesting. I included that on the album. As opposed to At the Expense of Humanity, The Majesty of Decay is, yes, like when I was writing it, I had me in mind, but I didn't want it to be some like self-aggrandizing kind of thing. So I tried to write it in a way that you could insert yourself into the story as much as possible.
Yeah, and like I said, I love the album. You know, I actually love it when, you know, a band is willing to explore something that's a little bit more challenging, you know, maybe a darker side of life, but in a way that you can still relate to. And I'll give a personal example. So I lost my mom last year. It'll be a year in September, and there were 2 albums that I ended up reviewing that I really loved, that both dealt with the loss of a parent. The first one was There Was a Light Here from Demon Hunter that came out literally 2 weeks after my mom died. And when I saw them live and they played the title track from that song, I wept at the concert. Like, I've never cried at a metal show, and I had tears streaming, so much so that Ryan Clark, the lead vocalist, you know, he even like shook my hand. He used a lighter to light a candle at the end, because he's talking about his mom dying, and he actually gave me the lighter at the end, you know, that he used to light the candle. And then Mariana's Rest released an album early this year that also, same thing, same subject matter, very different style album, less of a kind of like a modern metalcore, and more of a, you know, Death Doom kind of album, but same thing. Like that album is so heartfelt as well, and that album also made me cry. So I've had 2 metal albums that made me cry, and I've talked to both bands about it and really appreciated the fact that they were willing to kind of go so deep. But I love it when, like, to me, there's nothing more metal, to be cliche for a second, there's nothing more metal than like digging in and going deep and being real. And and so that was one thing I really appreciated about this album, Majesty of Decay, is it really felt like you were exploring something that people would want to avoid, but it's real stuff. And I thought the spin you put on it was really cool, and I really, really enjoyed that album quite a bit.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, it's just it's a big thought experiment about death and the importance of dying right, and the way that family can make or break you. So I'm glad that resonated with you.
Yeah, I appreciate you calling out that Mariana's Rest album. I'm very sorry for your reason for relating to it, but that is a really important album from this year. I think a really stunning work.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna, like, I have no doubt it'll make my top 25 albums of the year. There's a really strong chance it'll make my top 10 albums of the year. It's a fantastic album.
Yeah, fair. Really, really good shout out. And again, just sorry for your loss and experience there.
Well, thank you for that. Well, on that somber note, we'll move on. Briefly, so after Majesty of Decay, you guys went independent. You did a crowdfunding initiative for Concord, and ultimately Concord saw more of a return back to kind of the more classic style. Not exactly on 100%, of course, but definitely more of a return to the power metal approach. Can you? Oh, there we go. I'm getting choked up over here from before. Can you talk about kind of what was the motivation to kind of return to your roots, so to speak?
Well, the Majesty of Decay was what it was out of necessity, I guess. Necessity because after Alicia left, we needed to produce an album for Prosthetic Records. I had X number of songs in my back pocket already, and I was the only person who at the time could or would write more music, so I completed the album, and there you go. I love the Majesty of Decay. I think it's amazing. It's one of my favorite albums ever. But I'm very aware that it's whiplash compared to the rest of our discography. And I'm very aware that, it's not everybody's cup of tea, and it's certainly not every Judicator fan's cup of tea. So after we finished producing the Majesty of Decay, we had conversations about, okay, we made it through. Now that we have some time, what do we actually want to do? Like, we made it through. We have the opportunity now to take a little bit more of a break and plan forward what we want to do. So all that being said, I did still want to incorporate some elements of the Majesty of Decay, some of those proggy elements, but this is Judicator. I wanted to not ape Alicia's writing style, but to do something a little bit, reminiscent, or, something a little more in that direction. So, and I also never wanted to be the songwriter of Judicator. So I did write a good amount of Concord, again, kind of out of necessity. I do enjoy writing music, but Concord was a step toward a more collaborative arrangement in the band, and I think it worked out rather well. You have songs that are more Majesty of Decay-ish with Imperial and Weeping Willow, and you have songs that are really leaning into stuff that, is more reminiscent of Alicia's writing style, but again, not trying to ape it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things on Concord that I love is the reference to the Last Emperor in Call Us Out of Slumber. I love that it has that callback to It Falls to Jerusalem in it, the balance me part. when I first heard Concord and that came on, like, I just got a smile so big on my face. I was like, okay, John's doing that thing where he ties our work together, and I love that this album is opening with a callback to, you know, my era in the band. And I think the thing that is really cool about Concord is, yeah, it's closer to, like, I would say it's most comparable to The Last Emperor, but it's like a mid-tempo version of The Last Emperor, because The Last Emperor is just like, you know, I don't do hard drugs, for the record, but it sounds like the kind of album you make, like, in the 80s on cocaine. Like, I think of, like, somebody pointed out, they're like, this sounds like, you know, like Cliff Burton era Metallica, and I'm like, yeah, when Lars Ulrich was doing mountains of coke and could still play the drums. And it's just balls to the wall, like, adrenaline the whole time. And the thing that really resonates with me with Concord that I like is it feels like it captures that same sense of, like, grandiosity and, like, epicness that The Last Emperor has, but, like, reins it in a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we do not have to play at 200 beats per minute all the time. we can have some more, like, foot stomping anthemic songs. And I really dig that. Like, Sawtooth is, like, I was telling the guys the other day, I'm like, all right, if we play 2 songs at a show, the first one should be Gloria and the second one should be Sawtooth, because I think that's one of Judicator's best songs, and like, I'd put it in my top 10 easily.
That's a great song.
Yeah, and it's just so majestic, and the chorus is so powerful, and it's just, like, really fun to play, and it's just got this great anthemic vibe. It's a song that, like, I love The Last Emperor, don't get me wrong. A lot of people see it as our best album, and they love that it is a just, like, pedal to the metal album, which was the point. But when I think of Sawtooth, I'm like, that is a song I wish we had on The Last Emperor. I think that song, a song like that would have put that album over the top for me, like, in a personal creative sense. So it was one of those things that, like, when I heard that song, I was like, yeah, no, I feel good about the creative direction of this band and being able to integrate myself back into it. And there's other amazing songs, of course. I really want to play A Miracle of Life live, so just note that, John, please, for me.
When we play A Miracle of Life live, we do the music video version. So we do the eat shit part.
Okay, say less, because I was already sold. You don't have to sell me harder.
Yeah,
No, go ahead, John.
No, just Sawtooth. I love that she called that one out, because that's one song that I just never get tired of listening to. And, you know, the song is intelligent, I guess, because it's like, oh, westward expansion, good, westward expansion, bad, push, pull. It's exploring things about westward expansion, I guess, but to me, the song is about, I like mountains, and mountains are cool. And for me, that's just nice, because I feel like, for me, sometimes there's such a need to do stuff that's important and to explore things that matter and are important. But the song began with me doing hard manual labor in my dad's backyard, which is in a very picturesque part of Utah, very beautiful mountains. And I just had like a Zen moment for like 20 or 30 minutes. I just had this melody come to mind, and I thought, these mountains are great, but I love the Sawtooth Mountains. I miss the Sawtooth Mountains. And then Sawtooth Peaks above, and, you know, it's just a nice flowery chorus, and it's nice to enjoy nice things sometimes.
Yeah, I think, especially as a band that's cut our teeth on growing up and living in the Southwest, I mean, you look at Utah, you look at Arizona, and then, you know, Colorado, which as a band we've spent a lot of time in Colorado over the years. It's nice just to have a song that just appreciates, like, wow, we live in a beautiful world. Yes, there are horrible things that predate us and are happening in conjunction with us and happen afterwards, but let's just take and pause a moment in the beauty, and I think that song really just like, I don't know, it's zen, like you said. Like, I can just zone out and get lost in that chorus and the imagery. The beautiful video is just, my god, it's a stunning video. Like, if you guys have not watched the Sawtooth music video, go watch it. It is an absolute tourist advertisement for Utah. It's great.
It totally is. It's so visually stunning. Well, a couple more questions before we wrap up here. Since we're talking about kind of the move back to Concord and the kind of the melding of older style, but also some of the newer elements you brought into Majesty. What can people expect from upcoming Judicator material?
Yeah, so I'll get into this. I hope our 8th album is out in 2027. It might be. It's not written, so we've got 6 songs that I wrote that are quote unquote done. Pending like edits and nitpicks and things like that. And then there are a couple others by the other songwriters started. So musically, we're still crafting the album. John is still working through his lyrical concept, which I'm sure he'll say a bit about. And it might be a lofty goal to get that out by November next year at the latest. I hope so. But knowing that, we do have a smaller EP of unique material that is almost done. Musically, it's basically finished, recorded, very well along in the production, and ready to pass off to John to write vocals to. It has 2 songs written by me and 1 song written by our keyboardist, Francisco. And I just decided to come out the gate swinging with it. It's just like pedal to the metal. We're back, like, not that we went anywhere, but like we're back to like doing some speedy stuff. And it's not really representative of the album that we're working on. It's just like a fun little 14 minutes of adrenaline to like tie people over. You know what I mean? Just like 3 songs that would go over really well live. It's nothing fancy. It's like, if you like songs like from our back catalog, like Raining Gold or Nothing But Blood, or like our faster speed metal-y songs, I think this EP is just like a good, like, all right, we're working on the album, and the album is more ambitious. 2 of the songs I wrote for it are like power ballads, essentially, so like if people are expecting me to write The Last Emperor Part 2, not going to happen. Though there are elements. This EP is really just like, all right, we're going to come here, we're going to show up for 14 minutes, we're going to kick your teeth in, and then we're going to go back to work.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the EP. I have a much clearer idea of where that's going to be lyrically than the album. I think the EP will really inspire confidence for anybody who has any kind of question mark about what this reunion is going to look like.
Yeah. And I like that we're doing something that's like, these songs won't reappear on the album. I hate when you like buy an EP and then they show up on the album later. We're not doing that. It's 3 unique songs. We may play some of those songs live depending on how well received they are. And
there's one that I really do, and it's actually I'm pretty sure that's the one that I want to be the song that we talked about. Anyway,
okay.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away now.
We won't spoil too much there. But as far as like the where album 8 is heading, it's definitely rooted in classic Judicator. But I would say things that I'm more focused on is, 1, the collaboration with the other songwriters, 2, honoring the direction of Concord, 3, not writing the same albums again. It's a lot more melodically intricate. We're taking advantage of the 3 guitar lineup and what we can do live. So like, we were already a very melodically intricate band. We're like up in that ante there. Plus, we've got Francisco to continue his great work from Concord. And also just a lot more focus on concise songwriting. So we're really trying to hone the not the short meme metal songs by any means. Like You'll Never Catch Me Dead making 3-minute songs about digging holes. No disrespect. No disrespect to bands that do that. That's not what I'm about.
Disrespect. I'll do it.
Not as
Disrespect.
I have to
disrespect you.
Hide my true metal elitism and be like, Manila Road is the only band that matters. But focusing more on we have a lot of songs that are 6 to 7 minutes long, or 5 to 6 minutes long, or the 8 to 12 minute songs. And one thing we've approached here so far is focusing more on that 4 to 5 minute range. Mm-hmm. And then within those 4 minutes, having less repetitive focus, how much ground can we cover in a shorter amount of time? It's we want to shorten the landing strip and pack more into it. We want to make a smaller landing pad and land a bigger plane on it, which I think is going to be a really unique and fresh thing about this album for our sound.
It's almost
cool.
more challenging, I think, to write a short song that is just really good, too. It's surprisingly hard.
Yes.
Yeah. I've always I can write prog epics all day. You want me to write Lucid Nightmare 5 more times? Sure, I can make up random shit and string it together if you'd like me to. And some of it will probably be good, but making use of 4 minutes, and we're going to repeat as little as possible, and we need to make every moment count. We're really going for the details here. So we're not rushing by any means. And I've probably revised these songs more than I ever revised any previous Judicator stuff, and then having additional revisions done by the rest of the band. We're not going to stare at our navels, overanalyze, but we're definitely going to bring out the polish for sure, I think.
Very cool. Well, one final question. So Grillfest, obviously a big part of the impetus for this interview, along with the kind of the story here. I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it will be the first show back with Alicia live. And I guess what I'd like to know, and maybe what the audience would like to hear, is what should the audience expect from this first show back at Grillfest? Anything specific for Grillfest? Any surprises?
So audiences can expect a lot from this coming performance. Judicator has a lot of surprises in store for Grillfest. We are performing 2 songs that have been often requested, never played. So this is not only a great time to come see Judicator because we have Alicia back in the frickin' band, holy moly, but also we're going to be digging deep in our pockets for some hot coins that people have wanted for a long time. We're going to be performing for an hour. So we're going to take our time and just have a really good experience together with the audience. Grillfest is going to be a breath of fresh air, a tall, cool glass of water. It's going to be a great time.
Meet
Awesome.
medieval combat.
As far as what people can expect from Grillfest in general, I would say it's worth traveling for. It's a phenomenal time. We barricade off a whole block of Midvale's historic Main Street, fill it with vendors, food vendors, and we have 2 combat rings, one for Boo Hurt, which is medieval combat, and one for pro wrestling. And so on the day side of Grillfest, the street side, on the street side of Grillfest, you've got a community block party vendor fair experience. And in the venue, you've got the concerts happening all day. And then after dark, the footprint condenses a little bit and it becomes a little more intimate because there's not going to be people attending on the street. It's going to be specifically for you, people at the venue. Going to have a new selection of food. So the daytime food vendors go bye-bye. We bring in new food vendors. The experience is crafted very intentionally to keep you at Grillfest. So if you, for example, want to come and have lunch and have a gourmet brat or a hot dog, and then for dinner you can have brisket, pulled pork, and then after the daytime crew leaves and the nighttime crew comes in, you can have fish and chips or something. So there should always be something new and exciting and interesting happening at Grillfest.
Oh, super cool. Super cool. I mean, another one of my passions is delicious food. And, you're marrying metal and food. Like, that sounds like a match made in heaven right there. So,
yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
3 things I love: metal, food, and violence.
And there you go. Grillfest delivers on all 3 of those. Look at that. Well, cool. Sounds like people definitely have a lot to look forward to, not only with Judicator's appearance at Grillfest, being obviously a very special appearance with Alicia back in the band, but also just the Grillfest in general. Definitely a different experience from a metal festival standpoint, but one that sounds pretty amazing. So, you should definitely, if you're thinking about whether you should go to Grillfest or not, go buy your tickets now. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, with all that, any final thoughts from both of you? And I guess even before that, thank you both for taking the time today. This has been really great. I really, again, appreciate the vulnerability, the transparency, your willingness to kind of dive into some challenging topics. Any final thoughts before we sign off here?
Heavy metal fucking rules. For real, though, thank you for having us. I mean, that is real, believe me. But thank you for having us on and being willing to, give us a platform to promote our art and talk about our lives. And, ultimately, we just want to share our creativity, our personal journeys, and hope that it makes people's day a little bit better, and we can all do a little bit better and have a little joy in all this shit we're dealing with. And I really appreciate you giving us the time to share that today.
Absolutely. How about you, John?
Yeah. Again, thanks for the opportunity and the terrific platform and conversation that we've had with each other and you. This has been a great pleasure, and I look forward to more.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, then, on that note, I will be doing more interviews with other Grillfest playing bands. So there'll be a lot more to look forward to on that front as well.
Yeah, my big shout out to My Metal of the Day for being a partner in making Grillfest what it is.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. I am looking forward to seeing your other band, John Beholder, and seeing my buddies in Adamantis for the first time. So thank you for bringing them.
Yeah, I've joked about this, but also I am serious that the Grillfest is an excuse for me to see my friends. Grillfest it is intended to be like a family reunion, and I want to welcome the public into that, because obviously it's like a community block party, but it's also a metal festival. So the public's welcome, but also this is the underground power metal community's family reunion is what I'm trying to do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, again, thank you both. And everybody, let's stay metal.
Stay metal.